Welcome everybody to the Vinny Eastwood show. We'll be going to the studio in just a moment. In the meantime, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a wee bit of a like, and if you can, please take to the trouble of sharing this link around. There's a lot of people to get the word out to, and we don't have the kind of corporate sponsors to get the message out, so you have to be the sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, by sharing things. Now, you can see the Vinny Eastwood show at the moment au naturel, and I've changed the position of the microphone so you can actually see my neck. I was unfortunately thinking I was some kind of a bodybuilder without a neck for some reason. Anyway, we'll be kicking off the show in just a second here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show, the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't make it fun. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state is Vinny's jokes. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, all of those of you in the chat room for listening. Benny Mac, as always, one of the premier admins that we've got here. Benny Mac, my man, thank you so much for all your help and support over the, well, goodness knows how long you've actually been supporting the show. It feels like you've been here forever, brother. Thank you so much. And we've got Andromeda Tangupai here, Adam Forrest, Amos777. Thank you very much, Amos, for all your support as well. Man, the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, just this morning, in fact, literally the minute before the show, this is the reason why we're approximately a minute or two late getting on live on the broadcast, was a package turned up, the all-new, what was it, Osmo 3. I've got the Osmo 2 now. For those of you who don't know what these are, do I have a demo around? No, I don't have a demo. Anyway, essentially it's just a thing that you can put your phone in, so that when you're cruising around live streaming and helping the protesters get the coverage that they deserve, it looks very stable and steady and can hold your phone on its side. Okay? Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's these things called wide screens. Turn your phone on the side. That's the best way to do it. Because otherwise it's just this little sliver of stuff and you can't really see anything other than the person themselves talking, and you have to start it on its side either. Anyway, that's how we start off the show for some reason today. It's just giving people a little bit of advice on how to actually help other activists get the coverage that they deserve, which is getting the best technology you can get your hands on that's not prohibitively expensive, and use the available platforms before you've been censored off of them to get as much of the message out there as you possibly can. So, moving on with news today, ladies and gentlemen, coronavirus deaths atop 400,000 worldwide. Now, this is from June 7th, some 3 days ago. Now, bear in mind, the reason why they say these big numbers and 10,000 or whatever has happened in New York is because there is a payoff system going on where I think Bill Gates not only gave the World Health Organization $50 million to declare a pandemic in the first place, but additionally United States, shall we say, hospital staff, or hospital faculty rather, were getting payoffs as much as $12,000 for just having a person as being confirmed as dying from COVID-19, and another $35,000 if they were put on a ventilator. And after 3 days on a ventilator, you die, because you're not getting any real oxygen. You're just pumping the lungs open and closed. Now, this statistic here, this 400,000 confirmed global death toll from the COVID-19 virus reached at least 400,000 fatalities on Sunday, a day after the government of Brazil broke with standing public health protocols by ceasing to publish updates of the number of deaths and infections in the hard-hit South American country. Worldwide, at least 6.9 million have been infected by the virus, according to Johns Hopkins University. You know what I think is, you don't know how many of these people actually died from coronavirus, all right? Like, seriously, these people probably reported that George Floyd died of coronavirus. You know, it's just like the amount of people being reported as dying from coronavirus. And in fact, we've had people here in New Zealand, people call into the show who've had family members who've reportedly died of the coronavirus when they had other health issues and things of that nature. Now, the problem with this microphone being in here, I'm just trialing out a new system today so that when I'm talking into the microphone, I don't have to like lean all the way in, because my neck's been getting really, really sore lately, and because, you know, you're doing 5 hours or rather 10 hours of radio a week or so, leaning into a microphone that's not properly adjusted for you, it can be a little tough on the neck. And unfortunately, considering of necks, the neck on this microphone stand and everything is basically broken, so you can't tighten it up, so it's basically just loosey-goosey, so you have to wrap all the cables around the neck of it. You know, I was just like, man, thinking, I need a new microphone stand. I definitely need a new microphone stand, folks. Not prohibitively expensive. Oh, speaking of prohibitively expensive, rent for this week. That's a very important point, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? We need $460 for the rent for this week. We currently have $100. Right, so $360 right now. That'd be lovely, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I think because this new arrangement here, a lot of things that are normally within my view when the microphone's not like right in front of my face like this, so like somehow out of view. So to drink coffee and to have water and that kind of thing, I'm going to have to make a few adjustments. Won't be a moment. Yeah, I'd like to suddenly not taking my own advice, because there's some good news, folks. Some very good news. We had a couple of packages delivered recently. We have, what was it, the Osmo 3 gimbal, and we had a megaphone, 65 watt, and we also had a portable battery-powered sound system as well, with 2 microphones and also a headset and battery pack type thing. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, next protest I'm going to, you're damn right, that stuff's going to be helping out the activists, okay? Because that was basically all bought with money from you guys. And one person sent me like $360. I was like, oh my god, that's enough to get the sound system. And then I checked the email afterwards, and and it was for the rent, and now I'm $360 short for the rent. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's do some good shows today. Let's try and do right by the universe, and then hopefully my rent will get paid, and me and my wife won't be out on the street. Now, let me see what is the next article we've got on the Agi here. We have Colin Powell. Trump has, quote, drifted away from the Constitution. Now, I find that very ironic, considering Colin Powell drifted away from the truth when he lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and talked about all these mobile production plants and things of that nature. I'm sure many people who haven't been drinking fluoride for the last 2 decades may have remembered something of that nature, which means like maybe about 2% of the audience. So basically what this dude did is he sat down in front of the United Nations and lied to them, all right, about Saddam Hussein's weapons and that kind of thing. So he managed to convince the world, because he's Colin Powell, you know, why wouldn't you trust this guy? I mean, he's black, you know. Black men in politics don't lie and cheat and drop huge quantities of bombs illegally, you know, that kind of thing. You know, this was back before the days of Obama, when now people recognise that. About maybe a couple of % of the population recognise that. Anyway, he's basically instrumental. He's the guy who convinced the world to go to war in Iraq the second time. All right? Because, you know, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, a liar is a liar. And it doesn't matter who's saying what about this. It doesn't matter if you agree with them. If they're a proven liar, it doesn't matter what they're saying anymore, does it? You know? And that's why honesty in media and that kind of thing is such a difficult thing, because you have to be honest all the time. And that means including admitting your mistakes and your faults and things of that nature. And that makes people lose faith in you immediately. All right, you just go, that guy's got fucking faults and stuff like that. That reminds me of me and the faults that I'm not admitting or working on. I don't like that guy anymore. Screw that guy. Now, there's also another adjustment that needs to be made here. We have a little filter thingy called a chroma key. And sometimes if you play with the little settings and whatnot, you can make your green screen look a little bit better and less gimpy. Unless you're Vinny Eastwood, in which case you don't know what you're doing, so you just muck it around with nothingness and praying everything goes your way. Okay, so that's looking slightly better, I think. Moving on, drifted away from the Constitution. The question is whether or not Trump was really out for defending the Constitution in the first place, because at the end of the day, this is all just a shell game, isn't it? You know, you're sitting back and you're going, okay, these guys are like betting on both sides, and it doesn't matter which horse comes out the other end. Bankers rule. And that's all there is to say about it on that front to a large degree. Going back to your comments now. Richard Bonner says was both in uniform, and I didn't yet know the real Colin Powell was a Luciferian scumbag. When the soft killer's over, we are going to rule this place. I don't think so, man. I think there's just so many freaking bad people out there. Wait a second. Well, it reminds me of something. What was his name? My guest yesterday, Leonard Caldwell, he was telling me about the placebo effect, right? Everyone knows about the placebo effect, but have you heard of the nocebo effect? You know? We have another Truth. VJ Mick DirtyWork says, what's good from Trenton, New Jersey, Vinny? Well, I don't know. Hopefully the people are good from there, but I can't be sure. I do want to encourage everybody, if you can, to support the Vinny Eastwood show as well, the Patreon and the Kiwi Bank and PayPal and all of that kind of stuff. Links are in the description. It all really helps out the broadcast, folks. Now, we're going to be going into our next article now, Palestinian Lives Matter. Well, that reminds me as well, I was thinking of starting a group just to mock Black Lives Matter called Brown Shirts Matter. You know, if you're German, you know what that means, but that doesn't necessarily resonate with the rest. So, they're wearing brown shirts. I told my wife about this last night. It's the first time she's ever heard the term brown shirts. Well, previously during this takeover of Germany by the extremely popular Adolf Hitler, who was Times Man of the Year twice. The only other person who was Times Man of the Year twice was George W. Bush, whose father incidentally financed the Nazis. So you can see a connection there between the time. Anyway, the brown shirts were essentially the frontmen on the street of the political establishment. Okay, so for example, if you had people on the street who represented the Labour Party, who went around and beat other people up, you know, that kind of thing. In New Zealand, we don't call them brown shirts, we call them the New Zealand Police. And now But I digress. The point is to savage your political opposition with violence in order to get them to shh, so that you've got no opposition to your tyrannical agenda. And I believe that is exactly what George Soros funded Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and Extinction Rebellion are all about. They are globalist, funded, brown shirt groups who use violence, chaos, and disruption to silence their political opposition, and they do this covertly. Now, just because they are opposed to your political persuasion doesn't mean that they're on somebody else's side. All right, like let's say, for example, I'm not in favour of Trump, and nor am I in favour of Hillary, because there is no real difference between the two. Both serve globalist scumbaggery, and both will betray you, okay, because they don't keep their word, and they have a long track record of not keeping their word. And that's all there is to it. If they're a globalist scumbag and they don't keep their word, then don't think that they are worthy of support. And don't accuse somebody of supporting the opposition just because they don't agree with you. There's a good chance that both of us are wrong, you know? Palestinian Lives Matter, huge Jewish Arab rally in Tel Aviv decries Netanyahu's plan to annex 1/3 of West Bank. This is from commondreams.org. It was the biggest demonstration by the Israeli left wing in many years. Oh, sorry. Is my thing not working now? For many years, and was remarkable for its mixed character, with both Jewish and Palestinian Israelis coming out. You see, people gathered together to protest the annexation plan of the Jordan Valley in Tel Aviv, Israel, on June the 6th, 2020. So, you know, think about this as well. It seems all black and white via the media, doesn't it? That where it's clearly these Arab terrorists are just, they just won't take a deal. So we have to, use $4 billion worth of weapons on them a year. So I can't understand why they won't make a deal with us. You know? I mean, it's not like we've taken 90% of their land progressively over the last 40 years or anything like that, and gradually hoveled them into, ghetto-like concentration camps of certain kind, you know. Now, an interesting point from TubeMeki over here. David Servin, 2015, was shot to death by cops in Myers Park. That's in central Auckland here. No charges. Remember that? The dude was white, for fuck's sake. And indeed. In fact, statistically speaking, you are far more likely, if you're white, to be murdered by a cop than a black person is. And if you're a black, you're statistically more likely to be killed by another black person than a cop. Okay? And this is what you see in places like Chicago, because the disarmed population, they weren't allowed to carry handguns. And statistically, young black males were the biggest at risk of being murdered by other blacks in their area. And they were disproportionately benefited by possession of a handgun than any other demographic in the United States. Principally because when you pull out a handgun in self-defense, frequently the assailant, even if they're armed, will run or take cover or something of that nature, and preferring to preserve their own life rather than risk it by attacking an armed person. This is why criminals become a lot more active, and this is why shootings in New Zealand have become a lot more prevalent now that a lot of military-grade arms have been taken off of the population. Indeed, the United Nations in 2013 released a paper. I believe it may have been linked, but the gist of it is they will take guns progressively, step by step by step, until you can't have so much as a knife. All right? They'll take your military arms first. You know, it's only military arms, bro. Then they'll take your hunting guns, and then they'll take your handguns, and then they'll take your slug guns, and then you'll take, you know, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Before you know it, the government have all the guns, and then you can't argue with them for about 60 or 70 years or something like that, until their regime becomes so corrupt that it bloats over. But that will be after 95% of the population have been enslaved or exterminated. Okay? Most will just get enslaved. The ones who resist, the ones who have the power to think, that kind of thing, they'll get exterminated. So I hope to see you all, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see you representing when we get taken to the fucking camps. Because then we'll all be Palestinian at that point, won't we? Navajo Times reports feds proceed with a Chaco drilling plan while tribes distracted by pandemic. As tribes are distracted by coronavirus humanitarian efforts, the federal government has proceeded with a plan for fracking and mineral leasing activities near Chaco Canyon. Now, fracking, ladies and gentlemen, this is an incredibly dangerous practice. All right, so the concept is that you want to put a whole bunch of terrible, bad, evil chemicals into the water table so that you can get natural gas out of the earth. Okay, you want to break the water table, contaminate it, in order to get natural gas out of the earth. Now, proven enough, it's very effective at getting natural gas, as well as it's very effective at contaminating people's groundwater, which a lot of people actually, you know, do this thing called drink. You know? People actually drinking that stuff. And this these chemicals that they pump into the ground in order to do that are far, far more dangerous than the gases and things of that nature. And in many cases, they're quite flammable. Now, they can cause earthquakes and things of that nature. And the real fun part of it is that you'll be able to set your tap water on fire. Okay, they even had this in Australia where there were fires on the rivers. Okay? Everything is connected, folks, and if you mess up one thing with a contaminant, you're going to mess up pretty much anything that's connected to those water systems. That's why in New Zealand they dump 1080 directly into the waterways, so that everybody in this country who is drinking directly from the tap water and the government-regulated drinking water standards is drinking up to 1,000 times more herbicide, more pesticide, and more contaminants than anybody else is allowed to in the rest of the world. Why do you think New Zealanders are so stupid and so sterile and so willing to believe the glowing mirror ball of a mouth of Jacinda Ardern when it speaks? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have been poisoned and contaminated and programmed and distracted, and boy, oh boy, do they love to lock you down. And now they know that they can do it. They'll be able to do it anytime they want. Hey, you've got some kind of a protest or something like that that's going to block one of our big projects that we want to destroy your entire water table and basically force you onto our private water that we've secured earlier through Chinese interests. Well, we're just going to have a bit of a lockdown and then do all this behind your backs. Hey, you guys are protesting about 5G and you're burning up our towers and things of that nature. Well, we're just going to lock you down and finish installing the network. You see, now they can do this. This is an important tool, bro. This is scary. Michael Gyerism says, Vinny, talk about the vegan agenda. It's part of the depopulation plans. Veganism kills. Now, I'm not 100% sure about that, but there is this something to be said. I believe, what was it? Heard this on the Joe Rogan podcast, vegancats.com. Now, what you've got is crazy vegans. Now, just remember, vegans are on a spectrum, just like anybody with narcissism or psychopathy. They're on a spectrum, so they range from not that bad to really horrible. Okay, so you may have gotten yourself onto some very, very horrible vegans in your time, and I've seen some very, very nice ones. But however, I was thinking about this whole New World Order agenda, and they don't want people eating meat. All right, what was it? The 3 foods that are really, really good for the brain are meat, eggs, and fish, right? And red meat specifically. And I was thinking to myself, you know, if I was a New World Order scumbag, and this is the plan, ladies and gentlemen, there won't be no meat in the future. This is why factory farming and all of these kind of things are being exposed now, because people want to think about, you know, compassion for the animals and all of that kind of stuff, and instead of the amount of people that aren't dead or starving at this particular moment because that food is not there. But there is something to be said as well, because of all of the practices and everything that have been laid into factory farming and all other forms of food production, including vegetables and fruits and what have you. It doesn't matter what you're eating at this point. The New World Order probably controls it, owns it, and it's not good for you. However, the plan for the future is for everybody to be vegan. Now, when you take the meat, eggs, and fish and dairy and everything like that, which is good for brains, good for thinking, that kind of thing, out of the diet, what you're going to do is you're going to have potentially, and you may see this with some vegans now that don't know how to supplement properly, where they essentially go into a form of psychosis, where they start yelling at everybody, screaming at everybody. They can't think. They're completely ideological. That sort of thing, and it's scary to behold. And some of them that I've seen are, well, you see how I'm kind of like engaged, right? Make jokes and think, right? And I can speak reasonably quickly. I've seen people who are basically the opposite in terms of vegan, speaking so slowly. What? Not being able to think. Just absolutely malnourished, right? Essentially. Now, this is what we call a cult belief. So there's many religions, I think, potentially. I'm not sure about this. Are there any religions that are strict vegan, or is vegan in and of itself a religion? And how does one define a religion? You've got a belief that can't be questioned, can't be argued with, and everybody who doesn't share that belief is wrong, /bad, /not good enough, and I'm just better than you. All right, now that may describe the approach of many vegans to a large degree, to have a just a reasonable dialogue and things like that. That's basically what people determine as sane. But what's problematic about this this whole diatribe is that you don't have a reasonable discussion. It's, I have this belief, I cannot be wrong, I cannot be questioned, you're wrong, and fuck you. All right, that's the level of maturity. And just to have my point, we have a vegan in the chat saying, fuck you, man, go fuck yourself. So this is the... did I not just explain exactly that and do this? See, you want me to not criticize you, but you criticize my way of living, so fuck you. See, again, nobody ever said that vegans can't criticize anybody else's way of life. There's some valid points. The way we treat animals is absolutely horrific. The thing that it does to our body, having all of this stuff all the time, it's really, really bad for you in a lot of ways, okay? And so vegans have a point when it comes to various aspects of dieting and things of that nature. Now, I met a guy one time, and he said I was... when I'm at home, I'm vegan, all right? But if I'm going out to a restaurant with mates or going out to their house for dinner or something, no, I'm not vegan, you know, that kind of thing, because you don't want to be rude or left out or have them have to put out extra stuff for you, that kind of thing. Look at this fucker. Fuck you too, Vinny. You just lost a long-time watcher. You didn't examine the details. You just gathered me up. Oh, it's been deleted. Oh, bastard. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. But you get the idea. I mean, it's just. I'm so sorry. I just lost a listener for calling for reasonable dialogue and saying that they had a point. I mean, is that not the perfect demonstration of the argument against veganism? I mean, you know how it's like, what did they say? I'm not your enemy. You're your own worst enemy. So it's just like, oh my goodness. Everybody cracking up in the chat room. Send him a hanky, Vinny. And Michael Gairism, the one who took us off on this tangent, says, maybe I'm very open-minded, Richard. I noticed the pattern with the diet and certainly feel better now that I've gone ketogenic with lots of high-quality animal fats. Yeah. See, and again, there's if you take yourself too seriously, I'm afraid this is not the show for you. Okay? All right? There's a certain measure of how seriously you take yourself, okay? I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist. Like, bro, just never mind. Getting back onto the thing. No offense to dude, but he didn't belong here, says Truth VJ. Yeah, it's crazy. Veganism is crap. More important people die. Let them. Yeah. From Tony Brand in the backup channel. Bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 channels. Ralphie.co.nz says Vinny lost 1 listener and gained 50 new listeners. I think freedom is more important than veganism, fascists, or fascism. Meat a few times a week is okay. Diet really hurts some people, right? And I've got a terrible diet. My wife, terrible diet. We are lazy. We don't cook enough. I mean, we've been having soups and things like that. We're not like those people out there who go eat fast food and stuff like that all the time. Nah, bro. We've got plenty of home-cooked stuff going on. But it's not like I've seen and been to places, you know, like family dinners or like swap a plate dinners or whatever, where there's like a salad and there's various types of different salad and big bowls on the table with decent portions of meat and potatoes all cooked up and stuff like that. Doesn't happen very often, because like to prepare a meal like that takes a lot of work, and when there's only 2 people here and you don't have family around, that kind of thing. And I was just thinking, man, how important is it to have family around you when you got a new child and stuff like that? Because my baby's now a little over a month old, maybe like 6 weeks old, 8 weeks old now, and we're doing reasonably well. Thanks in large part to all the listeners giving us donations and sending us things and what have you. So anybody does want to donate anything for the baby cause and whatnot, you can go to the contact page at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com, and that'll be right up your alley. Now, some virtue signaling from CNN politics. Wait a second, is that a blue eye and a? It is a blue eye and a red eye. So they're both the all-seeing eyes with the cross in the middle. It's like Yakin and Boaz. Oh my God, am I seeing stuff that's not there? Have I gone full conspirazo? It's a kind of conspiracy sausage. CNN Politics reports Romney marches in Floyd protest to make sure people understand that Black Lives Matter. Republican Senator Mitt Romney on Sunday marched in a Washington, D.C. protest after the death of George Floyd, in a break from other GOP lawmakers who have largely aligned behind President Trump's militarized response to nationwide unrest. Now, let's be clear here. The takedown of America by communists and scumbaggery of this ilk has been long foreseen. I believe it was Yuri Bentamov and G. Edward Griffin in 1980, was it 88 or 84? I forget exactly which year it was, but they outlined in detail, and this is a former KGB Soviet spy, what their plan was for America: to completely demoralize the country, to get rid of your morals, get rid of your ethics, to put a whole bunch of violence in front of you on the television so that you get desensitized to it, to weaken your religions, to infiltrate them with the government and with payoffs and things of that nature, to brainwash people into serving the government agenda instead of regarding their religion as a larger than. And eventually they wanted to bring the country to a state of civil war. And once the state of civil war has taken place, then the tanks from Kiev can start rolling in and quote-unquote normalize the situation. Normalize by taking full control. And then that's when they eliminate all the communists. Okay? The communists come in from afar and eliminate all the people that help them get into power locally. Okay? So if you're part of these Black Lives Matter and you are successful with your little revolution, you're going to be first on the chopping block after your revolution is successful. Okay? You are a useful idiot and you are going to go first. The reason why is because you're an idiot. You don't know what you're being used for. And as soon as you idiots find out what you've been used for, to destroy and enslave your own people, you're going to be very pissed off. And you happen to have the experience and the wit and wherewithal to overthrow governments. So you would immediately throw yourself into overthrowing this current communist system that you accidentally helped bring into place via your stupidity. And that's why you're first on the chopping block. Okay? This future is not for you. It's not for me. It's not for anybody who wants any kind of semblance of equality or freedom or justice. It is for those who want resource extraction, who want all power. Okay? Omnipotency, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine being able to rape as many children as you want, being able to take as many riches as you want, being able to destroy as many neighborhoods as you want with artillery shells, to use as many people as you want in your experiments. That is communism, ladies and gentlemen. Power. wielded by unaccountable statists who are completely insane. And you have a look at the Brown Shirts Matter movement at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. Do they not look completely insane to you? How arrogant, how young, how foolish. And they will destroy your country. Imagine. Because you sat back and just let them do it. Heard somebody say on the radio the other day that you need to be... Oh, wait, this is Dr. Leonard Coldwell again from yesterday. You need to be forming militias in your own neighbourhoods. You know, going door knocking and stuff like that. Hey bro, do you want to protect the neighborhood just in case shit goes down or something bad happens or there's disorder or riots or something like that? Do you have the means to defend the neighborhood? Do you have training or something like that? And we're going to form a neighborhood militia, neighborhood watch group or something like that. Do you have the weapons? Do you have the training? Do you have experience in war zones or close quarters combat or anything like that? Can you be useful to protect the neighborhood if a bunch of club-wielding thugs with Molotov cocktails start rolling down the road and start trying to take out your neighborhood's businesses and homes? Okay? That, I think, is a very, very smart idea right now. Neighborhoods taking care of themselves, talking to their neighbors, and making sure that everybody is taken care of. Right? Don't wait for the government or the National Guard the last minute. Have a look. There was 196 ongoing structure fires in Los Angeles in 1992 during those LA riots, ladies and gentlemen. 196 structure fires in the county of Los Angeles. That is huge amounts of damage that was done to communities by their own communities. Okay? Because those communities weren't organised, they had no militias, they had no ability to protect themselves. And the shop owners that were wily enough and armed enough to protect their own shop fronts happened to be the ones who didn't get them burned the fuck to the ground. So take a lesson from that, ladies and gentlemen. These kind of riots have happened before. Protect your neighborhoods, protect your businesses, and do it yourself, and do not expect the police or any of those kind of people to keep order. And bear in mind that the police will try and arrest you for protecting yourself or protecting your business, okay? Or protecting your community, because they're not there to do that. To punish and enslave is their job. To protect is yours. Moving on now, CNN poll, Trump losing ground to Biden amid chaotic week. As protesters gather near the White House and the coronavirus pandemic rages on, the American public is souring on President Donald Trump. A new CNN poll conducted by SSRS, that's serotonin reuptake inhibitors, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, finds Trump's approval rating down 7 points in the last month as the president falls further behind presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden, whose support now stands at its highest level in CNN polling. Let's have a look at this little poll, shall we? If we can open it up, that is. Ah, it's one of these puppies. Do you approve of or disapprove of the new way Donald Trump is handling his job as president? I can't read that stuff. Never mind, folks. Moving on. Something a little bit more cheery. Effects of cannabis edibles can vary greatly based on small differences in THC dose. Now, ladies and gentlemen, bear in mind that THC is basically kind of like... If you've got an engine, right? You need oil for that engine to run properly. For all the gears are greased, they don't wear each other down, that kind of thing. And you also need some fuel. So THC is the oil and the CBD is the fuel, more or less. And this is just cutting it down very simply because there are umpteen different kinds of cannabinoids. I think there's up to 200 that have been qualified and codified, and there's something like 2,000 plus that have been discovered that haven't really been researched yet. Okay, so you're talking about, when you talk about cannabis, when you talk about cannabinoids, it's very, very important to know precisely what you're talking about, because it's a remarkably complex field. New research sheds light on the pharmacodynamic effects of cannabis-infused food. The findings, which appear in drug and alcohol dependence, indicate that relatively small differences in doses can result in large differences in effects among infrequent cannabis users. Now, I learned this myself, ladies and gentlemen, when I made a cake for my friend for his 21st birthday. And after 2 pieces of cake, I was basically up against a tree in the backyard, unable to do really much or move, just absolutely grizzled, and I think I was in bed by about 6:30. Okay, so just a small miscalculation in the dose can make a big difference. Now, that being said, there was a 911 call from I think it was a Florida sheriff, if I remember correctly. It might not have been. And he called up his own dispatch on a 911 call because he couldn't figure out how to use this. He couldn't figure out how to use his equipment. And he calls in and he goes, and he thinks he's about to die. And it's so funny, this call. 911, what's your emergency? Yeah, we ate a lot of cannabis cookies. Anyway, and we're afraid that we're gonna die. Yeah, okay, and what seems to be the main problem? Well, time is just going really slow, and all right, this guy ate what would be considered a metric whiteout of weed, bro. Like, and he thought he was going to die, but he didn't. All right. The point is, he didn't die because did you know that you can't die from cannabis? Doesn't matter how potent it is, no matter how much you have. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to have a very, very long, peaceful sleep. All right, and that sleep won't be permanent. You'll come off. You'll come out of it at some point. All right. A friend of mine back in the day, I think he made some ganja balls, very, very tasty. And had like a plate of maybe 28 of them or something like that. And we all had 2. And that was good for us for the whole night, bro. We were loving it. It was awesome. And he took the plate home, and he got hungry, and then he ate the rest by himself. It's a bad move. See, this is why you need other snack foods around when you're ingesting cannabis edibles and stuff like that. Especially if the cannabis edibles are tasty, like cookies or ganja balls or something like that. Because he woke up, I think, was it the weekend later? It was a long time. It was a long time, and very dehydrated and stuff like that. So he had a couple of glasses of water and he was right. But again, these are the worst things that can happen to you if you have way, way, way too much cannabis. And this is talking about 10 to 20 times the standard dose. All right, this would be the equivalent of somebody sculling a bottle of vodka. And when you scull a bottle of vodka, you're probably going to pass out at some point, much like the cannabis, but it's going to also have a lot of other effects, including, you might die. All right, alcohol overdoses and things like that kills people all the time. There's 1,000 people a year in New Zealand alone that die of alcohol-related road accidents alone. That doesn't include the 70% of weekend crimes and things of that nature, including 50% of the weekend homicides, 50% of the weekend spousal abuse, or it might have been 40% actually, and all the assaults and things of that nature that are associated with alcohol. Now, where's the studies to prove alcohol's safe? You know? Oh, we've been using it for 10,000 years. We've been using cannabis for 10,000 years. And our one doesn't make people into assholes and then go off and then hurt people and rape them. All right? Alcohol does. For fuck's sake. What is the big deal? Why do you have to convince people of this? It frustrates me so. You know? It just frustrates me so. Look, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, what somebody does in their own home that doesn't hurt anybody is their business. Okay? Doesn't matter whether you agree with it. It's not any of your business. And, you know, certain people disagree with legalization for various reasons. The main one, I think, is because they're complete idiots. Alright? There's even some people who smoke cannabis that are against legalization. Idiots. Now, there's many, many reasons why legalization is bad. Just like there's a million reasons more why keeping cannabis illegal is bad. Bad for everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I just came back from my my chiropractor, and I took a snapshot just outside where she was. Here we go. See, look at this. Number 420. For those of you who don't know, the number 420 is a synonymous with cannabis, more or less. It's the number of cannabis. You know, 666 is the mark of the beast. 420 is the mark of cannabis. So I just thought that was funny, and I wanted to show you guys. Another interesting news here. This was in from 2017 though. All right, but it just gives you a general idea. This is from the independent.co.uk. Winston Churchill has as much blood on his hands as the worst genocidal dictators, claims Indian politician. This is a man the British would have us hail as an apostle of freedom and democracy, says the author. Now, at the same time as people hail Winston Churchill and his speeches and all his great decisions and so on and so forth, people forget that there was a massive a famine rather, in Bengal. And a huge amount of food then got diverted from Bengal in the middle of this famine, while people were starving to death, and diverted to British troops instead. And as a result, 4 million Bengalis died. Now, if you made one decision and it killed 4 million people, kind of makes you a genocidal maniac, doesn't it? You got to think to yourself, okay, all right, okay, whoa, the deeper realization sits in here. Maybe a hell of a lot of people that we love, that we look up to, that we think are holier than thou, are actually just genocidal maniacs that have been dressed up, you know? Like, what about Bill Gates, for example? You know? People love him. Love him so much. Oh, look at all the black people he vaccinated and sterilized. Oh, he's just such a nice man. And it's, yeah, it gets me a little bit. And it's frustrating. I know it gets to you too. More news here. Gatestone Institute International Policy Council. France post-pandemic disaster. France was, in addition, paralysed from any kind of growth by a proliferation of regulations and an omnipresent bureaucracy. During France's lockdown, a law was passed to fine heavily, that's €275,000, any social network that published what a judge might consider, quote, hateful. People are also now asked to report to the Justice Department any suspicious statement they read or hear about. You have to report what you hear about someone. even if there's no evidence for it. Since schools and high schools have reopened, teachers were invited by the government to listen to the conversations of their students and immediately to report any comment criticising the government. Teachers listening to their kids and then reporting them to the government if they criticise them. Far out. Oh. At the source of French misfortune, there are French traitors who bear French first names. They have been abusing the voters' trust for more than 40 years. They lied about the real state of society and ransacked the country. Ivan Railful, columnist, Le Figaro, February 19, 2020. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's think about how much power the state has, not just in your own country, but in pretty much any country. Okay, this is how much power the state has to basically be worse than the virus. That's the common thread here, isn't it? That the terrible measures being taken by the government are far more deadly, far more damaging, and far more wide-reaching than any virus yet discovered. You know, governments don't care about that, of course, because governments don't really exist. No, but seriously. Oh, you're talking about Vinny, the government exists? Really? Can you touch it? You ever touched the government? You know? No. You can't, because it's an abstraction. Alright? Forests, for example, they don't technically really exist. Trees exist. You could touch a tree, but you can't touch a forest. You see? Now this is the difference between individualism and collectivism. Collectivism thinks that you can touch a forest. It thinks that you can touch a government. You can't, okay? Because it's an abstraction. It doesn't actually really exist. Anne McCarthy says, Vinny, I sent you money for this month's rent. Did it not arrive in KiwiBank? This month's rent? Well, a month's rent's like thousands of dollars. If that's the case, I mean, I could just check real soon, unless, of course, thousands of dollars is not what you're talking about. But yeah, let me just check that KiwiBank here for a second, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see if that's the case, because it might have been you that's Anne that sent me the what was it called? The $350 or $360 or something like that. No. So there's no extra money in the KiwiBank at the moment. So yeah, must have been that one that you were talking about before. Tony Bren, where are we? Says, I have argued that with people and they don't get it. Yeah. Yeah, probably meant the week. Yeah. Well, it was a week's rent, but unfortunately I didn't know that at the time before your email came in. So I actually got a PA with two UHF mics and a little battery pack headset on it, kind of thing, a big amp. So we can take that to protests and what have you. And here I am trying to raise money for the rent for this week. So we've got 3 more days before the rent is due, and we need about $360. So we want to hopefully raise at least $120 during this broadcast and the next 2 in a row if we are to make rent this week. So anybody want to help out the Vinny Man, go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and donate what you can. There's PayPal buttons on there. The PayPal email is guerrillamedia77@gmail.com. That's guerrillamedia77@gmail.com if you want to send us a PayPal donation. And in the description there is patreon.com/Vinny Eastwood. That's Vinny with a Y because it's the most important question. Eastwood, like, go ahead, make my news. And go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, give us $1 a month, just $1 a month to support the channel, to support the work that we're doing here at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. And as you see from last weekend, went out and helping out the outdoors party and protests and things like that against the scumbaggery going on in New Zealand. And now, thanks very much to all the donations, I have a new cell phone gimbal, I have a new megaphone, and I have a new big amp sound system with microphones and a headset as well to help out whenever I do have to go to protests and things of that nature. And you might have noticed that those things weren't present at the last protest if you did watch the video. Yeah, so a lot of problems with the sound systems and things like that. I was just like, nah, that sucks. Let's do some good work here. Now, I haven't even had time to unbox most of the things. I've got the megaphone sitting back over there. That's been unboxed. But the gimbal and the thing, yeah, literally haven't had the time to even open the package and to test them out, that kind of thing. Had to wait maybe about 36 hours before I was able to find the time to open the megaphone box and be able to test it out. And I still haven't even tested it out properly. And that's part of the thing when you've got to do the show by yourself. And you've got to help out your wife with the baby, and you are the only person earning an income of any kind at the moment, and mine's not really an income because everything is voluntary. So please, ladies and gentlemen, if you can support us, do. I really, really need it right now. Townhall.com, Mr. President, it's time to investigate George Soros for funding domestic terrorism. This from Wayne Allen Root. From townhall.com. Mr. President, you've taken step 1, declaring Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. That was a brilliant move. Now it's time for step number 2, cut the head off the snake. We've got to aggressively cut off the funding for domestic terrorism. Those who provide funding are terrorists themselves. Who is providing the funding? There are many suspects. Suspect number 1 is globalist billionaire George Soros and his Open Society foundations. It starts there. Is Soros guilty? That's way above my pay grade. That's why we need a global investigation. So just to put into perspective here, ladies and gentlemen, Open Society, okay, this is an international framework of little organizations in separate countries. Like, for example, New Zealand has a branch, it's called Action Station. Okay, Canada has a branch, it's called Democracy Now. All right, these are little, basically, Antifa organizations that go around doing the globalists' bidding. Okay, so let's say, for instance, you've got a bunch of houses that are going to be built for Māori here in New Zealand, and that threatens the interest of some property developers. So what they do is they get Action Station to give a huge demonstration at Ehumatua to prevent the construction for that to happen, so that later on the land can fall into the hand of private contractors and developers instead of the original Māori people for whom these protests were supposed to be helping. Okay, now the reason why there's only one per country, one of these open society organizations per country, is because of the purview. Now, essentially, they say, look, here's a shockingly large amount of money, more money than you could ever conceive of, like more money than Vinny Eastwood had ever seen in his life, most likely. And we just have a few conditions, very, very strict conditions, and there's actually not a few, there's quite a lot of them. And most of them involve doing whatever the hell we tell you, whenever the hell we tell you to do it. Slave. And here's some money. And you can do good for democracy and shit. Right? And if you disobey us in any way, we're going to cut your funding off. We are going to cut your funding off, yo. And then you don't have to worry anymore about these people who are trying to, I don't know, for example, in Canada, set up oil pipelines so that they didn't have to pay extremely high prices for their oil. You know? So what you do is you get your protesters in, they destroy your apparatus for getting your own oil out of there, and it maintains the Rockefeller oil monopoly therein. All right, that's basically how that works. Now, I apologize for having to be distracted a little bit there. There's this backup stream, and it always freezes for some reason about halfway through the show. In fact, are we even halfway through the show? We are halfway through the show. Okay, great. So, yeah, let's have a look now. What's our next article? John Oliver expertly disarms right-wing talking points over defund the police. John Oliver devoted his entire Sunday night show to police brutality. Arguing it runs hand in hand with white supremacy. Quote, the police have not just been incidentally tainted by racism, Oliver pointed out. Quote, for much of US history, law enforcement meant enforcing laws that were explicitly designed to subjugate black people. You'll have to excuse me, folks. This is actually quite difficult doing this all on my own without like a crew. That, he said, means more than just a weeding out of than just weeding out a few, quote, bad apples, but rather dismantling an entire system and replacing it with something that more effectively serves the communities. The police killing of George Floyd, a black man in Minneapolis last month, sent off a wave of protests around the country with, quote, defund the police as one of the rallying cries. Oliver pointed out that many on the right have seized on the slogan as meaning that people want to do away with police altogether, and played a clip of Fox News host Tucker Carlson arguing exactly that. No more cops, Carlson declared. At first, Oliver feigned sympathy for Carlson and offered him some suggestions on how to de-stress. Just kidding, Oliver said, breaking the moment. Fuck you forever, Tucker Carlson, you sentient polo mallet. Now, this is how this kind of globalism works in comedy circles. All right. Now, first of all, if you're making comedy out of lies, it's not quite as funny as the comedy that's based on truth. All right, and the best comedians, you know, Bill Hicks, Steve Hughes, and George Carlin, these guys talked a lot of truth. That's why it was so funny. Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, these guys talk a lot of truth in their comedy. That's why it's funny. But when you're lying and you're virtue signaling, that kind of thing, it's just not as funny. Or at least to the people who have a sense of humour. But if you're an idiot, on the other hand, it's really hilarious. So let's think about this whole concept of defunding the police. Now, I recall that in New Zealand, they closed the community constable offices at 5 o'clock. All right, they used to be open 24 hours a day. So, you know, you've got a crime or whatever, anytime, day or night or whatever, you can go into your local police station. All right, and there'll be at least one guy there who'll be able to take your complaint or something like that. And then what they did is they then closed them at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and opened them at 9 o'clock in the morning, which means that anybody who had a job who wanted to report a crime had to either quit their job or get a day off work in order to be able to do so. Now, the police hailed this as a great success because it reduced reported crime by 40%. I mean, I just find that so funny, bro. You know, that's absolutely hilarious to me. And then you think about the defunding of the police and whatever, because police actually create crime. Okay, wherever they go, whatever they do, they're creating crime. Okay, so for example, a police officer assaulted me, all right, by trying to grab at my phone when I was filming her when she pulled me over. That's a crime. That's assault. The police officer just created a crime. Okay, now the less police you have on the streets, therefore, the less crime there's going to be. Because the police commit crimes as part of their job. The police are trained to lie as part of their job. Okay? It's what they do. And if you think I'm like just making this up, or I don't know enough police, or there's good cops out there, have a look. If you donate to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com, and then you go on the homepage of the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and click on the little thing that says, have you already donated? Click here to get your special rewards. And in there's a link to the unlisted playlist. Now, that includes an interview with a New Zealand constable, and we go through his entire training regiment and things like that, and it's a real eye-opener. On this channel, there also might be a video of Natasha Suarez, who's a former New Zealand police detective. And there's also, I think, way back in the archives, Grace Hayden as well, who's a former New Zealand police sergeant. So they kidnap people, they assault people, they lie, they steal. Okay, they're taking your stuff as stealing if they got no right to it. And these are the people that are put in front of you on TV as emergency heroes, or that kind of thing, or in Die Hard, for example, just this New York cop who's just taking out these horrible terrorists, that kind of thing. That's not what cops are like. That's not like what it is like in the movies, bro. Okay? It's very, very different. The amount of rape, the amount of scumbaggery, ladies and gentlemen, can't be overestimated. All right? They call themselves the biggest gang in New Zealand. What do gangs do? Crimes. Okay? And the reason why they do it as a gang is so that they don't have to suffer reprisals. I'm protected. That's all that it is. And got Peace out in the chat room saying that they need body cams, and not so sure that's a very good idea, because then they could edit all that stuff, couldn't they? And they could frame you, and at the end of the day, the less police surveillance, the less surveillance in general is better. I mean, in fact, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. If I'm going around filming public meetings and things of that nature, I have to, make sure to ask people, are you all right being on film? Are you all right being on this live stream and that kind of thing? Because it's a very sensitive issue for some people. The vast majority of people don't care, and I think that's because they don't understand the damage that somebody can do, just with your face or at a certain location or something like that. It can lead to a lot of real consequences. Not that I know of any people actually experiencing real consequences of being on the Vinny Eastwood show, but you never know. In fact, somebody, I remember somebody called me up and says, I'm not sure if I want to come on the show. It might be a bit dangerous or something. And I say, look, bro, only 7 people have died after coming on the show, all right? It's okay. Oh. It is hard to drink coffee and talk at the same time, isn't it, Vinny? All right, and New Zealand firm Fletchers and Downer fuming as $371 million government Kiwi rail contract goes overseas. Construction companies Fletcher and Downer, 3 sources within the companies have told NZME that they were unsuccessful in their joint bid for Papakura to Pukekohe rail electrification contract in South Auckland. So this is Agenda 21 being set up, ladies and gentlemen. In the future, you won't really have a home, like I've got now. It's not my home. It belongs to a foreign Chinese person who keeps increasing the rent after taking pieces of the home away. Anyway, you won't have a house. Let me rephrase. You will live in a tiny little egg crate apartment, and it will be next to railroad tracks. And there'll be shops in the bottom of this apartment complex, so you don't actually ever have to leave. You know? Don't have to leave. But you'll want to, but you won't be allowed to, because you'll be tracked and traced wherever you go. And you won't be able to enter into unauthorised zones. It is understood the Kiwi Rail contract has been awarded to a joint bid from Chinese-owned firm John Holland and South African-owned McConnell Dowell. The competing New Zealand and overseas tenders were reportedly very, very close, but cost played a determining factor. Now, I believe over on the Daily blog, they have a little bit of a different thing to say about this. Sack all Kiwi Rail management now. I love the restraint with which the New Zealand alternative media does their thing. NZ last a grandpa doing his usual blah blah blah. At a time of immense job losers, you got to learn how to spell, guys, at the Daily blog. But by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is a left-wing rag that I'm reading out right now. Don't necessarily agree with them. At a time of immense challenges to our infrastructure, at a time of so-called kindness, the scum of Kiwi Rail management have turned their backs on New Zealand companies doing the urgently needed upgrades to a bloody Chinese and South African company. That's it. Sack the lot of them. I've got some very, very bad feelings about this, as they say in Star Wars. Because the question lies within, do New Zealanders have the ability to build their own infrastructure? Yes, they do. Will building their own infrastructure and owning it and controlling those strategic assets give them better control over their country? Yes, it will. Are you therefore allowed to do any of that? No, you're not. And why not? Why not? Because it's Agenda 21, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag Agenda 2030. Hashtag Agenda 2050. Hashtag Agenda whatever the fuck we say it is, because we're just making it up as we go along. All right? That is the controlling aspect of all of your city planning and all of those types of things. So don't think that these people really had any choice in what they just did, or that firing them would make any difference, because the entire problem that you're dealing with is globalization, globalism, all right? And if you don't deal with the tree that is dropping the poison fruit, you are not going to stop the poison from hitting the ground and despoiling your lands, all right? That poison fruit is debt. That poison fruit is internationalist, globalist organizations. Now, you would think about this with the approval. So let's say, for instance, I believe I interviewed the mayor of the Horowhenua. That's Te Reo for horrible land. And he tried to get hemp legal in, or rather grown down there in the Horowhenua, could be really good for the region, right? And then he stumbled across this this thing called Local Government New Zealand. All right, it's privately owned, and its member groups are all the biggest globalist companies that operate here in New Zealand. Okay? Now, what they do is they are the ones who have the yo or no-go on any legislation you pass on the local regions, yo. Okay? And that means that even if you said, yes, we want to grow hemp in the Horowhenua, and there's local councillors said no anyway, they would then go to this group of globalist internationalist companies and big banks and then ask them to approve what the people voted on. Okay? Why do you think you can't get no justice in the New Zealand courts, bro? Why do you think? that it doesn't matter what you do, and all of this kind of stuff is happening. All right? It's all a planned agenda, and they've figured out how to basically take over all the organizations you might think about going to for help. It was just like with Child, Youth and Family Services. In fact, that's a very good segue. God damn, I'm good. Baby uplifts. Oranga Tamariki says Children's Commissioner ignoring the interests of babies. It included an account from a woman who first discovered her baby would be uplifted while she was given birth. And another woman said her baby was removed before she had a chance to meet it, and despite a midwife urging authorities to allow it to be breastfed first. The personal accounts in the Commissioner's report represented only a fraction of the 61,300 children the ministry worked with last year, she said. Now, a lot of kids go missing from state care. A lot of kids die in state care. Now, why is that? Why is that? I'm sorry to tell you, but it's because the ministry or whatever commissioners take in children and stuff like that. Doesn't matter what they name themselves this week. Okay, it doesn't matter what new labels they've got from some kind of recent piece of legislation. It is a criminal pedophile ring. Okay, Child, Youth and Family Services, criminal pedophile ring. Oranga Tamariki Services, criminal pedophile ring. Child Protective Services in the United States, criminal pedophile ring. All right? You're 9 times more likely to be sexually abused by your CPS in CPS custody in the United States than you are with your natural birth parents. Okay? Thousands of children go missing every year, and this is a global pedophile ring, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? How do you think they keep all of these politicians nodding and saying yes to all of these terrible measures that they're implementing on their own countries? Okay? It's because they've got dirt on them, bro. Okay? These guys are pedophiles. These women are pedophiles. They kill, they sacrifice, they blood drink, that kind of thing. And when you look into it, there is a lot of evidence to substantiate these kind of claims, all right, that appear very, very fantastic, admittedly. And that's because if you want to look into it, you will become traumatized, like I did. You know, I had one lady over here, she did a 3-hour show with her, and she was in my house for like 6 hours. Never shut up. Never shut her mouth for a second. Always rambling on about all this horrible stuff. Well, she allowed herself to be raped so that her husband wouldn't rape her child. Her husband's parents were the ones who wrote the child abuse legislation in this country to protect the child abusers. They had a soundproof home off of a beach, all right, that they called the Candy House. These are people with Queen's Cross medals and things of these kind of decorations from this government. They're the people who are stealing your children, who are raping them, who are eating them, who are bleeding them. Okay? And they are the ones who are running your country. Scum like that. That's why everything can go off without a hitch. That's why these people play ball and ask how high they can jump when they're asked to jump. Because the alternative is basically having the mob unleashed upon you. You know what I'm saying? It's a terrifying thing. Imagine the position of these people. I'm a pedophile scumbag and I've got plenty of money and mates and all the power I've got, but if I don't do what my bosses say, I'm going to be basically torn apart by a crowd of people. Because they reveal what I'm doing. You know, and some people ask, you know, oh well, how can hundreds of thousands of children go missing every year and nobody find out about it? Well, because they don't collate the data. All right, David Icke, he wondered this himself. He had to call district by district in the United States in order to figure out how many missing children's persons were going, because they don't compile them federally or even nationally or even locally or regionally. All right, it's all individual cases and stuff like that. And before you know it, you've got like 100,000 or 400,000 children in the United States just never seen again. You know, and where do all those children go? Where does all that meat and bone go? And people may not know this, but the Shriners and Freemasons and various other occult secret societies and things of that nature in the United States are among the first people that Ray Kroc from the McDonald's Corporation sold the franchisees. All right? So think about this. What if the reason why your McDonald's patty is so tender and so flavorful is because it's got children in it? Your children that they're feeding back to you. Think about it. They've got all these huge machines that tear meat off the bone, grind them all up. Perfect. It's mixed in with 1,000 cows. How's anybody going to find out? Unless they start testing the meat, of course. And they do, and what's happened? Oh, there's human DNA in it. Okay? There's up to 1,000 parts of different cows in one McDonald's patty on average. That's from a book called Fast Food Nation. You know, terrifying stuff. So, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is what's going on as we speak, you know, behind the scenes. You can imagine what else is happening as well that you haven't heard about. Evening Standard, and this is to almost round off the show. Sheepers, how much time we got left? We've got nearly half an hour left. Oh my God, I've only got 2 articles. New Zealand eradicates coronavirus with no active cases in the country. This is from the Evening Standard. No active cases means all form of public events can take place without social distancing guidelines. Yeah, but they're still going to take all your information and track and trace you and stuff like that and say, oh yeah, sign in through the app and everything like that. Why is that? Is there a pandemic? No, we're over that. Then why the hell are these measures still in place? It's because they have nothing to do with the pandemic. They have to do with making everybody being a willing slave, isn't it? New Zealand has declared itself coronavirus-free after health officials said the final person known to have been infected has been recovered. And also in globalnews.ca, New Zealand says country has eradicated coronavirus as final patient recovers. New Zealand appears to have completely eradicated the coronavirus, at least for now, after health officials said Monday the last known infected person had recovered. The announcement was greeted with joy around the country and means the nation of 5 million people will be among the first to welcome throngs of fans back into sports stadiums, embrace crowded concerts, and remove seating restrictions from flights. It has been 17 days since the last new case was reported, during which time an additional 40,000 people have been tested, bringing the total number tested to about 300,000. Out of a nation of 5 million, and bear in mind those tests have an 80% false positive. Monday marked the first time since late February there have been no active cases. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said she was confident New Zealand had halted the spread of the virus, but is still prepared for more. But it still must be prepared for more. And this is the other thing. That's just basically her admitting that not only did this lockdown have nothing to do with the virus, but we're going to lock you down in future as well. Any old time we please. And that's how she works it, isn't it? This glowing mirror ball of a woman. It's unbelievable. Oh, my ad block has been detected. Well, let's just pause on the site and reload it, and we'll see. We can hear the jizzy. The jizzy spiel. Oh, goodness. It just hurts me in so many ways, seeing her face, seeing her talk. It just... Oh, God. Is it actually going to load or something? I don't know. Oh, it's loading an ad first. Fantastic.
Need a freelancer? Go to Fiverr.com and find one in seconds. Or don't go to Fiverr.
Is that insanely loud or what?
For freelancers instead of finally attending that anger management. Out of my way, Janice! Find your freelancer quickly and easily at Fiverr.com.
As New Zealand eases one of the world's most rigid COVID-19 lockdowns, the country's announced it will launch a contact tracing app. It's designed to help people track their movements. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said the app can be best described as
It's designed to help the people track their own movements for the benefit of the government. And these people are just doing it. You know, the government wants to know my every move? Where do I sign up? Fuck.
a digital diary to help people record their personal movements, adding that the data would not be shared to anyone else besides the user.
Really? Government tells you something and you just believe it, eh? Oh, no, don't worry, bro. Don't worry, bro. You know, governments don't lie or cheat or steal or murder large amounts of people just for their own ends and stuff like that. That just doesn't happen.
This is around really what I would describe as a digital diary, helping users when they're out and about.
Oh, it's just a little diary, you know? Something to like just put with your little lockbox at night and just be like, say, oh, it's just so nice. I get to record my thoughts and stuff like that in this diary, except it's only my movements that are tracked digitally on a government tracing app that they swear they won't look at, that they swear they won't share with other third parties. And you know, governments never lie, and technology that used to track and trace people absolutely everywhere they go couldn't ever be misused. You know, it's not like it could be used to like persecute people or anything like that. The words of the Prime Minister sicken and infuriate me. To such an extent, I didn't even know it was possible. I mean, bro. My God.
Keep a log of their own movements, for instance, between cafes and restaurants. That's obviously something that those businesses are...
How exactly is that even going to help? I mean, think about it. All these businesses and things like that. Oh, we've contact traced you and stuff like that. Okay. So? And what? You know? What does it actually lead to? You don't actually get anything out of it. Oh, I knew that I went to this place today. Just like, you went there. You should know that already. Why do you need an app to tell you where you've already been? You've already been there. Oh, but the government said they wouldn't look at it. And if you got it, then why does the government make it? All right? However, the government can't look at something that they made. All right? Seriously. It's like, I made a bench, but I can't look at it. But you made it, bro. You already know what it looks like because you finished it off. How is it? It's just complete BS. And then we saw as well that these scumbaggery corporations and things of that nature are keeping your data and then selling it to advertising companies and things of that nature, or like using it to spam you. You know, if you give them your email, we'll spam you, that kind of thing, because you went to Cars Jr.
doing themselves, but this is a way that people can do it that keeps the data for themselves.
New Zealand slightly eased curbs in late April and moved to level 2 in its scale of alert last week.
Slightly eased curves. And how did we do that? Did we do that through lockdown? Or is it that every single virus that's new and on the scene has a bell curve that goes up and swiftly down? Every virus ever does that. These people locked us down during that bell curve when there was nothing happening. And now all of a sudden they claim to be the ones who eradicated the freaking virus. A virus that eradicated itself. Because that's what viruses do. They're kind of like fads. Or one-hit wonders or something like that. They go, oh, their popularity, and then they're gone. Alright? That's how it works, bro.
Week, which allowed cafes, shops, restaurants and other public spaces to reopen.
That allowed public spaces to open. See, this is the scary part of it, is that people think they need permission to take their children to a park that their taxes paid for, bro.
under strict social distancing rules. 21 people have died of COVID-19 since.
Strict social distancing rules, despite the fact that there's no actual limits on any of that kind of thing. All right, so you can go to huge concerts, you can go to crowded funerals and things of that nature. And so what is this? Okay, so how come all of these measures have been put in place and people ain't really allowed to argue against them, and they just get put in, and that's it? Like game over? The hell? What the hell, ladies and gentlemen? Jennifer Michelle in the comments section says, imagine being a kid in this time. And I think Lewis Black, comedian, he said that every time is a terrible time to be a child. When he was a child, they had duck and cover. And some of the elder listeners might remember that, when you had to hide underneath kindling in order to save you from a nuclear blast. Yes, hide under something that's wooden, and you'll be all right. Terrifying these children. You could blow up at any minute. Oh my God, there's a communist. She's better red than dead. Oh my God. You know, that was a bad time to be a kid. And sure enough, kids grew up pretty screwed up. You know, they became our parents. And I'm just sitting here like going, okay, well, how screwed up is my baby going to be? You know, how screwed up am I? And I was thinking to myself, you know, that conversation with Dr. Leonard Caldwell yesterday shook a few things loose. It was just like, hey, are you ready to die today? Yeah, I'm ready to die today. I just need more weed to help me get me through the show, really. It's like I try the coffee and it's like the gargles. It does nothing. Under these big bright lights and stuff like that, it's just like, oh, bro, seriously, doing a show is exhausting, folks. Wow, I never even remembered it being this bad. Oh, I know why it was. All right, when I started doing 5 days a week, I was in my dressing gown, you know, sitting at my chair. I had a headset on, and there was no camera or any of that kind of thing. So, if you want weed to be delivered to the Vinny Eastwood show, ladies and gentlemen, you know, you can just send us a contact email, ask for the address, and I'll give it to you. But the thing that I was talking about, I've completely forgotten what I was talking about. Shit. Don't you hate it when that happens? What was I talking about, guys? Let me know in the comment section here. But yeah, I'm kind of like worried about children growing up in this time, that kind of thing. Yeah. Well, they won't know any different. The children won't know what it's like to go somewhere without a electronic thing saying that they went there, or telling them that they have to go there, or that they can't go there, or something about that. You know? That's what's happening. You get involved in a system and you never question where that system came from or how long it's been around. And that's the great difficulty of our time, I think. Yeah, man. Once I get into the last half quarter of the show, especially a show that I've been talking on all by myself kind of thing, get so thirsty, you get so badly in need of that coffee, eh? And you just start to fade, and you're like, you know, that kind of thing. As well as my weed's wearing off, but you know, that's a side issue. You can do the show without weed. I've done it before, but you can't do it without water and coffee, especially if you're going to be talking for hours and hours and hours, or just 2 hours rather. Now, here we go. We've got another comment in here from Sacred Appleseed Smith. School children can throw a ball, but other children are no longer allowed to catch it or throw it back for COVID safety. How much fun is recess now? Holy cow. It's just crazy stuff, man. Old Bruce Highway says, oh, Canada, weed ordered online, delivered by mail. Australia, prohibition and unreliable supplies. Coffee will dehydrate you. Yeah, that's true, but that's why I've got the water. How long for weed to come in the mail? I don't know. I had a listeners turn up. Dan and Ayla, I think they came in and gave me some weed. It was really lovely. It was quite nice to see. And they got to hold my baby too, and their dad was apparently a big fan of the show. And been watching for years and that kind of thing, and he never threw me any weed, so he's just, Vinny, have some weed. And I was like, oh, well, thank you so much. Here, hold my baby. Now, while I smoke this weed. Truth VJ says, I remember being 8 years old, saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the US flag every morning at school, not knowing what allegiance even meant. Sounded robotic. Yeah, and that's another thing. We get these ideas put into us, and you go, okay, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance, and you don't know what allegiance means. Okay, or sign this document, and you don't know what document means. You see, people can rule you essentially from behind the scenes quite easily if you simply don't know what language they're speaking. Okay, and you take a look at me, for example. Right now, I've got cuffs around my wrist. All right, I've got a collar around my neck and a leash around my throat. Okay, that's symbolic. You think all these business people and things like that, you think that they're free? No, they're slaves. They're dogs. All right, and that's why I wear the suit during the show. I could easily do it in a t-shirt or something like that. It should certainly be a bit more comfortable, but it's the symbolism. All right, the black and white. The white shirt, the black jacket, it's the good and the bad in us all. And the red tie is about the blood that we must sacrifice in order to keep the good and the bad separate from one another, you see? So there's a little bit of meaning in everything that you see, I think, ladies and gentlemen. And Jamie Hunt says, my 5-year-old hugs the new friends she makes at the park, and children aren't scared. And John McMillan says, that's why I don't wear a tie and roll up my sleeves. I think as well that what we wear really does influence how other people think of us, like... and Tony Bredon has also another point in here, just like dog tags, that's what the dark occultists call the police and the military. They call them their dogs, according to Mark Passio. Oh, you're a good boy. You're a good boy, aren't you? Yes. Do you want to go get the Black Lives Matter protesters? Yeah, go get them. Go get them. Go get that black guy. Go get that black guy. And that's the thing as well. I'm not the one calling the police and the military dogs. Your own commanders are. Your own recruiters are, bro. Okay? That's what you are. And it's very, very sad to see that people willingly surrender their humanity and allow themselves to be called maggots and queers and so on and so forth during these dressing down and indoctrination ceremonies they have. I mean, dude, we're living in basically an entire cult, okay? And I mean this in the most cultured way. All right, that's where we get the term culture from, because you have a look at any of the power centers of society, law, medicine, politics, whatever. They're all part of a cult, and they're all their own individual cult. And how do you define this? Well, first of all, they indoctrinate you into them. And how do they do that? Well, get your success story. Okay, let's say we've got the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and they're trying to indoctrinate you into the cult of the Labour Party. Okay, and they parade Jacinda Ardern out on stage, and just comes on the stage and she's smiling away as she does, like a paper mache giant head with a mirror ball stuck in its mouth. And they say, oh, isn't she beautiful? Isn't she fantastic? Don't you wish you were like her? And, you get a couple of people in the crowd. There's a term for them, I think suckers is the term. And they'll go, yeah, I really want that. I really want to be like her. I need a mirror ball smile. And you get these people to say, okay, well, you really want that mirror ball smile. So here you go. This is what you have to sign. And you just declare that you want this prize. Okay? I want to be like Jacinda Ardern with a smile like a mirror ball. And you sign the piece of paper. And then they've got an important hook into you, okay? Because now every time you feel like quitting the cult, they can go, hold on a second, we've got your piece of paper here. You do want this prize, don't you? You do want mirror ball teeth, don't you? Yeah, because you signed you do. Yeah, you have to stay here. Otherwise, you won't get mirror ball teeth, okay? And you're like, oh, well, I guess I really do want those mirror ball teeth. So you stay in the cult. And then they start to guilt trip you a little bit. And they say, look, you're not brushing your mirror ball teeth enough. And you've got to do it a bit more. And we've got to ask you to stay late and to contribute more hours for this mirror ball teeth convention. And you go, well, shit, I guess I have to do that then. And then after you've done that for a while, then they'll say, hey, there's other people around here who are questioning their dedication to get mirror ball teeth as well. So why don't you guilt trip them for us, because you've clearly understood the fact that how important having mirror ball teeth is, and you're still in the cult. So why don't you go and guilt trip and indoctrinate other people to be part of it? And also your teeth almost look like mirror balls as it is. So you might be in future a good example to the mirror ball teeth cult. And that's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. That's how they get you. Now, how do they keep you, though? That's the question. Other than guilt tripping and threatening to withdraw the prize and stuff like that, I'll take your mirror ball teeth fillings right out. And it's just, how do they actually keep you in there? Well, they get everybody in a silo mentality. All right. So that means if you think outside the box and you go, I just want an ordinary smile or something. I don't need a mirror ball teeth. And they go like, how dare you question Jacinda Ardern's mirror ball teeth complex fucking oh, mate, bro, what's wrong with you, mate? How exactly are you ever going to eat without mirror ball teeth? And you're like, oh, bro, oh, no. Oh, okay, I guess I'll stay in it because you're being bullied. Okay? Not necessarily guilt trip. That's a further indoctrination technique. But then you got to have really poor nutrition. Okay, so make sure that everybody who's coming in there, you got food available, there's going to be food and drinks available. None of them will have a skerrick of nutrition between them. They'll all be full of sugar and stuff like that, so you'll have like little cakes and what have you. Or if you're at a university, they'll have the Jewel of India butter chicken. Fuck, I missed that shit. Oh my God. Jewel of India butter chicken, Jesus. So good. Honestly, bro, so good. But I'm kind of getting off my point here. That after they've gotten you sleep deprived, malnourished, you're basic and bullied, you're pretty much going to stay in that cult. No matter how much money they ask for you, no matter how much of your time they ask for, no matter how insane their requests, you'll stay as part of it. Okay? Because you haven't slept, you haven't really eaten, and you can't think. And you don't have any friends outside of this. If you lose that, you got nothing. All right? And that's why a lot of people who leave cults their parents will say, look, this is a changed person, this is not my son, this is not my daughter, that kind of thing. People coming back out, they've got children who've joined Antifa, excuse me, joined Antifa or something like that. And, it just terrifies you, essentially, the possibility that whoever you've got might go into a cult and come out with mirror ball teeth. Like, bro, this just... It's just terrifying. Sacred Appleseed Smith in the comments has said trauma-based mind control. Yeah, trauma and stress. And I think I'm feeling a bit of that trauma and stress at the moment myself, I'm not sure if I really want to voluntarily put myself through it, because we've got Rotman1 over here commenting. He says, I lost half my family when I left the cult, but that's the way it goes. You become Satan to them, and that's absolutely true, I think. You look at the conspiracy theorists, that loaded term that the CIA came up with. I consider myself a proud conspiracy theorist because my definition for conspiracy theorist is a person who believes, absolutely believes, and you can't convince them otherwise, that powerful people who have a lot of influence tend to use their power to maintain and grow that influence. Okay? I'm a conspiracy theorist, ladies and gentlemen, and I think you are too, especially if you listen to this show. Jesus Christ, a whole bunch of crazies. I mean, us. Just in general, aren't we all a little bit crazy? I can fly off the handle and be a little bit stupid and stuff like that. And I think we're all just a little bit unbalanced to a large degree. And you have to be, because otherwise, you wouldn't have discovered the truth about shit. You wouldn't be searching if you didn't think that there was something wrong going on, would you? I feel a little bit mad, but I think that has made me a little less stupid than the average sheep slave scum out there, essentially. And to a large degree, I think we're all kind of battling social distancing in our own way, aren't we? Because if you have, let's say, for example, the ability to help other people, like I do, give them a platform and that sort of thing, and you don't do it, you're not doing what's right, okay? It ain't right that you've got talent, resources and skills and things of that nature that you ain't using or employing to make the world a better place. It ain't right what you're doing if you ain't doing anything. And we had Anne McCarthy in the chat down here just say, Vinny, my money was a gift. I just want to support you because you are brilliant. I am pleased that you have bought stuff to support protests. Good man, you will always have my support. Thank you very much for being part of the cult of Vinny Eastwood, Anne. Thank you very much. Now, I just want to also very much thank you, Anne, because that was a big donation, and just to reiterate, folks, I bought 3 items. Okay, 3 items basically every activist needs that I didn't really have. You need a gimbal for your smartphone so you can live stream from the protests nice and smooth. You need a megaphone so you can amplify your voice or the voice of others. And you need a little sound system with wireless mics and wireless headsets and things of that nature with a carry handle. And I now have those items. I haven't even been able to unbox 2 of them. I've just been so busy with the baby and all of that kind of thing. And this last weekend we just did protests and what have you. And I thought it'd be really good. I toyed with the idea, but I'm probably not going to do it unless I get a significant amount of donations in. Was to actually give that set of gear to the New Zealand Outdoors Party, and Sue Gray, because she's running around there all the time talking about all the things that I normally talk about on this show, that kind of thing. And if she had a $600 speaker set, a $200 gimbal for her phone, and a $100 megaphone, that's $800 ish all up, or $900 rather, and then all of a sudden 10 times as powerful, you know, having the ability to really enhance the volume of people's voice and the distance it can travel. Because just because you got a megaphone or just because you got a sound system doesn't mean anybody can hear you, all right? Because there's all sorts of distractions, especially on the street when you're doing protests and things like that. And when you look at this and you understand the ramifications of it, you begin to understand that live streaming your protest is the most important thing. The second most important thing is to amplify your voices, and the third most important thing is to make sure that other people have the ability to participate as well. Lots of different people all having their voices heard, and this is why I was really impressed and liked the protest that Sue Gray and the Outdoors Party did on Saturday. The video's on my channel there. Because it was like that, you know, because so many different voices and different ideas were heard. But what was problematic as well is, of course, the lack of a decent sound system. They tried one system, it failed. They tried a second megaphone, it was very, very low. And then another guy came in with a replacement megaphone with it, and it was working good for a while, but then the cords snapped off the battery, and then it set on fire. So that was the end of that one. And see, I was just like, okay, yeah, let's do something and try and solve this problem. So if you do invite me to your protests, ladies and gentlemen, I'll bring a megaphone, I'll bring a proper sound system with wireless mics and UHF headset, that kind of thing. So if you want to do something with your hands instead of just hold a microphone with them, you can. And I'll bring my live streaming equipment. You know, that's kind of what I do. But you've got to invite me. You've got to ask me. You know, and I would like to have another set of that to donate to the Outdoors Party. $800 worth of equipment: a cell phone gimbal, a megaphone, and a PA. You know, that kind of thing, and then they'd just knock it out of the park, I think. But the problem is the real central important item there is obviously the live streaming, and I was very, very fortunate after the Christchurch Moss Massacre last year that so many listeners and things like that wanted me to go down to Christchurch, that they were willing to donate thousands and thousands of dollars just so that I could purchase the equipment and tickets and things like that to get on down there. I'm very, very grateful, because without that phone, this phone in particular, yeah, without this phone here, ladies and gentlemen, so many of the live streams and amazing things that have come through this show and that kind of thing could not have been possible. And that's what your donations essentially pay for. They give me more abilities, and I share those capacities with other people who are doing what I consider to be doing the real work. I don't read the legislation and things of that nature, but I have people on the show who do. You know, I don't necessarily go out to all the protests or hold them myself, that kind of thing, but I have people on the show who do, or I'll go down there and broadcast it out. And got John McMillan saying, great coverage of Christchurch, Vinny, here in the chat room. You're welcome, bro. That was a tough time, you know, almost as tough as just recently with the coronavirus lockdown, that kind of thing. Because the thing that Christchurch and coronavirus have in common when it comes to the Vinny Eastwood show is that in each of those instances, a channel was demonetized. Okay, So during Christchurch, my main channel got demonetized. I remember the last payment from my main channel was like $900, and that was a huge payment. I never seen that kind of support come through from the listeners until last month when the coronavirus hit, and they demonetized my backup channel. And the last payment I got through that was over $1,300. And so I really do want to thank everybody who did Super Chat during those months. But now I don't have that $900 a month from the main channel. I don't have that $1,300 a month from the backup channel. I got nothing from YouTube anymore, folks. So if you want to support this show, watching it on YouTube ain't going to support me. Sharing it to other people ain't going to really help. All right, you actually do need to donate. You need to get off of the YouTube and go all the way to my website and that kind of thing. It's just sad. It's just sad. It was amazing before when we had people being able to just super chat in their questions and they come up nice and colourful and beautiful, and then I could interact that way. But it's just not the case anymore, folks. It's really, really sad. And I don't know how to get my channel remonetized without basically just stopping doing what I'm doing. You know, stopping telling the truth, stopping caring about you, and doing the right thing. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to die before I stop doing what is right. And I hope that you have a same level of commitment to the cause of truth and freedom and justice for all. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. And, last point, please check out Vinny and the Vendettas, my band, and the guys and that kind of thing on Patreon. In the description there, the very, very last entry on the description is the Vinny and the Vendettas Patreon page, where you can see our updated version of the Luftwaffe Aloft music video that we should be finishing in a couple of weeks' time. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, please give us your support to the band and the show. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show, the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't make it fun. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state is Vinny's jokes.